Good morning, NFC East. It is a good Thursday. Tone DeShields the second. Jeff Kerr here from CBS Sports. Tone, I gotta explain to you my last 12 hours here before we dive into the topic. So, as you know, I'm a 300 bowler. I'm a pretty good bowler. I bowled like absolute garbage last night. People hit the bar, go drink. You know what I did? I went home. I got a nice big glass of orange juice. Down, went to bed, and last night never happened. It's almost like a hangover without the hangover.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it's like you're trying to just, wash away that bad game, I guess you'll say, right? Kind of like, some of these quarterbacks, not named Carson Wentz, JK. So but anyway, that was a cheap shot, Carson. I love you to death, I think. Anyway.
I had a Josh Allen type game yesterday.
Anyway, man, it's funny, because typically you're in the zone, right? And I'm pretty sure you have certain things that allow you to be comfortable, doing that, doing your job as a bowler, right? I'm pretty sure you have tendencies. I'm pretty sure you have, technique that you're relying on, right? And the same kind of goes for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles have kind of become, this RPO centric type of offense, but a lot of people aren't really fans of that, and that leads them to question the validity of Jalen Hurts' credibility as a quarterback. It leads them to question his ability to read defenses. And some people just think that you can just plug and play any quarterback into this offense, right? But I disagree. And I have some numbers to prove it, right? In terms of the RPO and how much they're using it and how much they're relying on it. So Ruben Frank from NBC Sports Philly, he wrote an article about how Jalen Hurts is running significantly less. He has plenty of stats to back that up. But what stood out to me was something that he brought up about the RPO. As we all know, the RPO is the run pass option. We know that Jalen Hurts is a master at that. But here are these numbers. The first 3 games of the season, the Philadelphia Eagles ran 40 RPO snaps. That's an average of 13.3 per game and 19% of their total snaps. Since then, they've run 27 RPO snaps. That's an average of 5.4 per game and about 6.5% of their total snaps. So the Philadelphia Eagles have played a grand total of 8 games. The first 3 games, the RPO was about 19% of their total snaps in those first 3 games. The last 5, or the most recent 5 games, they've only run 27 RPOs. That tells me that they're becoming less reliant on the RPO, but 2, they're also allowing Jalen Hurts to drop back and read the defenses. Now, say what you want about Jalen Hurts. Say what you want about his skill set. Say what you want about where he was drafted, so on and so forth. But you can't say this young man is not developing. You can't say this young man is not growing. You can't say this young man isn't becoming one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL because of the fact that he's relying less on RPO. And a lot of people say, the top tier quarterbacks don't rely on RPO. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, so on and so forth, right? Jalen Hurts is starting to trend in that direction. He's starting to become less reliant on the RPO. He's starting to become less reliant on his legs in general. So I'm curious to know, A, why do you think people diminish the RPO offense and Jalen Hurts and how they use it? And B, what do you think these numbers that I've given you about their less usage of the RPO, what do you think that means in the grand scheme of things in terms of Jalen Hurts' development as a quarterback?
Well, first off, I don't know why you diminish the RPO, period. You do what gets your team to score points on the board and win football games. I don't care if you want to run the Wildcat offense. If you can get points on the board and they can't stop it, what does it matter? I hate how people diminish the RPO. And I think the people that diminish the RPO don't really understand what the RPO actually does. So I kind of describe, and look, this is like a Josh Allen development here. I know people don't want to compare Jalen Hurts' rise to Josh Allen's rise, but Josh Allen did some RPOs significantly more his first 2 years of his career than in year 3. And you could see like toward midway, like right now, Jalen Hurts in year 3 with Josh Allen. Oh, this ain't going away. He's figuring it out, and he's figuring it out in a monster way. And this team's going to be good for a long, long time. I think you're starting to see that with Jalen Hurts. I really do, because you're right. He is allowed to read the defenses now. He trusts the guys he's throwing to. And I think that's more of getting acclimated in your new offense, right? You had a bunch of shiny new toys this year with A.J. Brown, with Zach Pascal. You still had some familiarity with Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert. But now you played half a year with A.J. Brown. You played half a year with Zach Pascal. You played almost a full year now with Goddard. It's been a full year as the number one tight end. You played a year and a half with Devonta Smith. He knows their tendencies. He knows their routes. Devonta Smith said it best, with Shane Steichen to me yesterday, or Tuesday. We actually talked, the article published yesterday. But we know what Shane Steichen is calling, and we don't have to question it. Like, he tells us to be here. We know why. I think that's huge, not just for the quarterback, but for the receivers, for the running backs, for the offensive line. I just feel like this offense, they're just clicking right now. And it don't matter. Like, everybody goes, well, they would be 8-0 with Gardner Minshew. That ain't true. It's just not true. They have guys on this team. They know the positions they're supposed to be in. They know the concepts. They know. And look, I think Shane Steichen runs a very complex offense, but you got the right personnel to do it. And the Eagles have that.
Yeah, I agree. I think what makes it so complex, right, is the level of execution it requires. It puts a lot of stress on the defense, but it also puts a lot of stress on the offensive line, and puts a lot of stress on the quarterback to decide whether he's going to give it to the running back. It puts a lot of stress on the running back. To be able to run this offense requires two key aspects of life: discipline and patience. If you're undisciplined, you're going to see guys being down the field, illegal men downfield. You're going to see so many of that. You're going to see so many illegal picks. You're going to see mistimed throws. You might see more interceptions, so on and so forth. This offense rather requires a high level of decision making, execution, and patience, and that speaks to this team's football IQ. And when it comes to the discipline part, the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they have to be one of the least penalized teams over the past several weeks. I think in that Houston Texans game, they had maybe 2 or 3 penalties, if that. The games before that, maybe 1 or 2 penalties. I've been thinking about it. This team hasn't been hurting themselves. They obviously haven't turned the ball over, but they haven't been setting themselves back. They haven't been giving back yardage. You know what I mean?
All right,
and that's huge in terms of discipline.
Yeah, so you said they're one of the least penalized teams in football. They're the 6th least penalized team in football. So there you go.
Wow. See, I'm glad you had that in the tuck, because again, to run this offense you can make an argument it's one of the more complex because of the moving parts that it requires. In my opinion, it's easy to drop back. Well, being a quarterback in the NFL is not easy. Let me rephrase that. But I think it's more traditional of a quarterback to drop back and read the defense, or go through his reads or whatever. But I feel like you're asking more of your quarterback to not only drop back, but you're asking him to read the linebacker or read the edge rusher, and then also decide, okay, am I going to give it to my running back? Am I going to dump it off to my tight end? You're asking him to think about a lot of things in terms of just snapping the ball and getting the ball from point A to point B, right, Jeff?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I just think that's the maturation of Jalen Hurts, right? And now you've had, a year and a half with Shane Steichen. And again, he said it best before the season. He talked to me about this. This is the first year he's had the same play caller since high school. His dad, that was the last one. And his dad's a really smart football mind. He's a, renowned football coach for a reason down in Texas. But Jalen's had, I mean, if you can name all the coordinators or play callers Jalen Hurts has had, kudos to you, because he's had a ton. I mean, he's had Riley, he's had Steve Sarkisian, he's had Doug Peterson, he's had Nick Sirianni, he's had Shane Steichen. That's not even the tip of the iceberg, right? So I think it's more familiarity with the system he's comfortable in. I think it's more of okay, I know what I'm supposed to do, when I'm supposed to do it. I trust my guys. That's why they don't have to run as many RPOs anymore. Like, have you noticed that? I want to look this up quick, Tone. Have you noticed how significantly less Jalen Hurts is running?
I'm so glad, you're on fire today, Jeff. You're on fire. Let me throw a number at you really quickly about that. Right now, when it comes to his running, Jalen Hurts, yes, he's technically still on pace to have the second most rushing attempts for a running back, a quarterback, right? But here's
We're calling him running back, Tone. You really gonna do this to me here?
It was an accident. It was a Freudian slip, right? A Freudian slip. But hear me out on this, right? The first 5 weeks, Hurts ran 36 times on first or second down. That's an average of 7.2 times per game. The last 3 weeks, that number has plummeted to 7 rushes on first or second down, with just 2.3 per game. And again, this is Ruben Frank doing his research from NBC Sports. Shout out to Ruben Frank. He does great work for those guys. But his rushing attempts are drastically dropping on first and second down. And then on third down, he's similar thing. They're asking him to throw the ball more just in totality. So it's really interesting to see. In the first 5 games, he's had 26 carries on third or fourth down. He's known as one of the more efficient quarterbacks on third and fourth down, by the way. But in those first 5 games, he's had 26 carries on third or fourth down. That's about an average of 5 per game. The last three games, he's had a total of 9 carries on third or fourth down. That's about 3 per game. He's running the ball significantly less, and he's depending more on that arm. The numbers prove it.
Oh yeah. So the last 3 games, would you know he only has 20 carries for 60 yards with no rushing touchdowns? But during the same stretch, he has 8 passing touchdowns with no interceptions.
I don't know, and this leads to my final question about Jalen Hurts, and we can transition into the rest of your topics about the NFC East. Why do you think the national media always has to qualify their support of Jalen Hurts? Their schedule is easy, or this offense was made for him, or
you mean it wasn't made for Patrick Mahomes either?
Or he's a quality of the sum of his parts. There's always qualifiers with Jalen Hurts as a quarterback on the national media side of things, instead of just saying he's having a great year, he's a great quarterback. Now, everyone's not doing that, but it seems like most of these guys are constantly qualifying their point when it comes to Jalen Hurts. Why do you think Jalen Hurts is still being looked at as a guy who can't get the job done?
I think this all depends who you're listening to, too, right? So Emmanuel Acho comes to mind. I don't listen to him, but that seems like the name that always pops up when you talk about Jalen Hurts. Like, you got your Dan Orlovskis of the world that love Jalen Hurts. Even a Skip Bayless.
Really quickly, though, Dan Orlovsky says something that was a bit problematic for me.
Yeah, well, what did he say? Again, I don't watch these shows.
Yeah, and John McMullen and Matt Gill brought it up on Wednesday's show. Basically, Dan Orlovsky indicated that this offense, any quarterback can be thrown in and run this offense. Essentially, that's basically what he said. Now, I'm paraphrasing, right? And normally Dan is a little bit more rational than that. So I don't want to throw him completely under the bus, but that was something that I didn't necessarily agree with, that any quarterback can just run this offense.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't think any quarterback can run this offense. I don't think Dan Orlovsky can run this offense. No disrespect to Dan, But yeah, I get tired of hearing that too. And I heard that a lot with Josh Allen 2 years ago, where, he's just off to a hot start, or, the Bills got Stephon Diggs. That's why he's doing so well. Yeah, that's part of it. But isn't that what you want? Isn't that what teams are doing now with young quarterback? You just saw the Chicago Bears, a team that really isn't that good, trade for Chase Claypool, trade a second-round pick for, and again, Chase Claypool isn't on the A.J. Brown, Stephon Diggs level. But I like what they're doing. They're helping their young quarterback.
Right.
And you saw one game, Chase Claypool played 60% of the snaps. Did Justin Fields have this bonanza game? In a way, he did, because he set the single game regular season record for rushing yards by a quarterback. He was the first quarterback to throw 3 touchdowns, run for a touchdown, run for 150 yards in a game. So, yeah, in a way, it kind of did work. And I think most teams should be doing this, right? I think that's why Geno Smith is having a lot of success in Seattle too, because he does have Tyler Lockett. He does have DK Metcalf. Oh, by the way, he has a wristband on his arm, as what Pete Carroll says. So I don't know if you saw that, Tony. Pete Carroll.
I know, I saw that. I saw that.
Do you think that was funny, that little subtle jab at Russ?
Hey, listen, man, that divorce is getting even more fascinating. And, it's funny, we've always looked at Russell Wilson as being like this, this really ultra team guy. And a lot of people shy away from criticizing him because of his image. But, the more this thing plays out, you're beginning to see that maybe Russell Wilson was the problem in Seattle. Maybe maybe he started to get a little bit too big for his britches. And I'm curious what our guy Andrew DeSields has to say about this, man, because his perspective is always dope. I love what he does, but inside the birds, and just overall his perspective on the Philadelphia Eagles right now. I'm really curious to see how you guys attack that conversation and Jalen Hurts' development and growth. But before we hit this break, Jeff, any final things you want to broach about the NFC East, Jalen Hurts, so on and so forth?
Oh, Andrew and I will definitely be talking about this. So here's a little pro tip. Andrew and I sit next to each other at the football games at the Eagles home games. So we usually have some pretty interesting conversations about this team, strengths, weaknesses, and what people are going to complain about on Monday morning or Tuesday morning this week.
Oh man. Well, you guys are locked in on Good Morning NFC East. He's Jeff Kerr. I'm your guy, Tony DeShields II. Next up, we have our main man, Andrew DeSields. You guys do not want to miss this. Keep it locked.
It's